life waiting for red lights to turn green.
Oof. I got the good timer today.
Yeah. 6 months.
All right. 5 TV shows that you would take to a deserted island. What's the first one you're taking?
The Office.
That's a good one. I would take Parks and Rec.
Do we get to share? Or are these ones that I have to hang on
never
to?
share. We never share.
Never share. Okay. My second one.
It's amazing how hard the second one is comparatively to the first one.
It's got to be Friends.
Friends. Oh,
Yeah.
That's good. I think I would take New Girl. And I know I'll probably get judged by a lot of people.
No, I like New Girl.
Schmidt is hilarious. I like all the supporting. Zooey Deschanel, she's whatever. I don't care for her character. It's whatever. But all the supporting characters are fantastic.
That's right, but the show doesn't work without her character.
It's true. It doesn't.
I mean, it's one of those things that it's that title role, but the title role is not the main character of the show, really. She just kind of like holds everything together. It's good.
Yeah, I agree.
Big Bang Theory.
Ugh. Showing your age.
Showing my age. We'll wait till my next one because I already know my next one.
Man, that was so quick. I don't even know if I have a third one. Just think of a TV show, any TV show. Oh, I would probably take Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yeah.
For a little diversity. I got 2 comedies. I know something maybe a little bit more serious.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Have you ever seen an episode of Cheers?
I have.
Okay.
I have. I like Woody Harrelson. The Blacklist.
Yeah.
Get my little espionage in there. There's so many episodes of it that I forget what they're even about.
So here's my problem. My 5th one. The Yellowstone series I really like, but the problem with being on a deserted island is it's not very long. It's a short, but just for the intense action, I'll go Yellowstone number 5.
Okay. What's something that has the most episodes?
I think I've already got it. It's got to be Friends. Unless you're going cartoon Simpsons or something. I forgot about the Simpsons.
Oh, it's all these soap operas.
I'm replacing Cheers with the Simpsons.
Oh, Divorce Court.
Divorce Court or Night Court?
No, Divorce Court. I'll take Night Court. That's good. I would take Night Court. That's fine. That's great. That's some high tier garbage.
Oh man, see, and I went super fast, so I forgot about Bob's Burgers. Maybe we have to do it animated.
Maybe
because you've got Bob's Burgers, you got King of the Hill, The Simpsons. There's some good stuff.
No, it's fine. You chose Big Bang Theory.
I know it's. I love Big Bang Theory.
Young Sheldon.
Young Sheldon is brutal.
Is there a spin-off of Young Sheldon?
I don't know. Young Sheldon is a spin-off of the Big Bang Theory.
I know.
Okay.
I just on my TikToks I keep getting this one that pops up every once in a while and it almost looks interesting, but it looks like a spin-off.
Really? I need to look at Young Rock. Is it Young Rock?
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson's childhood.
Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah. I think I had avoided it because I thought it was like a Chris Rock because I hadn't even paid attention.
Isn't there a Chris Rock one?
I think so.
Boy, everyone hated Dwayne The Rock for a while.
They did. Well, he was a heel.
Yeah.
It's hard to like a heel. Remember video. Here we go.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Hey, everybody. It is good to see you today. This is Behind the Beards. And here on Behind the Beards, we pull the curtain back, take a look behind the scenes, and try to reveal the things that go on in the hearts and minds of your ministers and ministry leaders. In case you're new, I'm Joshua Fowler, currently a preaching minister in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My brother Aaron Partlow is a youth minister
in transit.
Longview, Texas. Not yet. One Sunday, man. One more Sunday here.
That's true.
I'm going through this process of. So it's kind of weird in our, because we have Sunday night, but our Sunday night services, there's like 20 or 30 people there. So like Sunday morning, it's like, what's the last thing you want to tell the church?
Right.
Those last words before you come back and preach another sermon on Sunday night to a few people. But it's like,
I know.
I think Sunday night might be the most awkward thing.
I thought about like reusing a Pauline letter. Was my original intent because I was going to do my last Bible class with my youth group, and what was I going to do? So I was thinking about like doing like a class and using a Pauline letter about when Paul's talking about, coming back or that he's away or that he wants to be with them, but he's called somewhere else. But I didn't. I ended up just having a chill Bible class. We read some of my favorite scriptures, is what I shared with them.
Yeah, it's it's
weird. That's weird.
Me, the thing that makes it really difficult is also the thing that makes it most rewarding for what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing from either side that really says, I'm just done and I got to go, or we're done with you and you need to go. It's just one of those things that, sometimes God puts something in front of you that you really can't ignore. And it's just time for the next step, both for the church and for us. And so because there's no seminal moment that's transpired that said, yes, there's this point of demarcation. That was kind of like, okay, yeah, it's over. Mm-hmm. There's no bad blood. There's no, there's some regret. I mean, there's always going to be some regret, but there's no finger pointing. There's no real blaming. It's just time, and that's, it's uncommon, and it's kind of a shame that it's uncommon because it's probably the most healthy way of moving forward. But sometimes it's just easy to stay in a place because it's convenient, and moving stinks. Selling houses is brutal.
The worst. Moving houses is the worst.
We have all these house showings. Aaron texted yesterday. He goes, "We're doing a podcast tomorrow." I was like, tentatively, yes, we can. But sometimes I'll get a message. It's like, hey, we want to show your house in 45 minutes. Get the heck out of Dodge.
Right? Yeah. It's like, what do you do? Where do you go?
So it's been good.
Do you take the dog with you when you guys leave? Obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, that dog wouldn't let anybody in the house.
Yeah, that's true.
He doesn't even let me in the house half the time.
Right. Yeah. I hear that.
Oh, man. But our week's been good. It's been busy. It's crazy, man. Heather's been working nights. And when she's not home at night, I don't sleep very well. So it kind of crazy. But it's been good. Things been going good here in the old Baton Rouge. How about Longview? Anything new where you guys are at?
Nothing new. We had our Netsis camp meeting yesterday, which is always it's always a blast. But we had a lot of preachers there, so it was a little weird for us. But it was still really good. Drove to Tyler, took our preaching minister, actually, Pine Tree. We announced that Jody Gardner, our preaching minister, is no longer will be our preaching minister. He will be our lead minister, which is a great step. It's funny. I was talking with Jody about it, and I was like, so nothing will change for us because I basically have already treated you like a lead minister since I got here.
Right.
He's a natural leader. He's a great guy that I always run things by. I always ask him about teachers. I always ask him about some of the other stuff. He's been here for a while, so that's just kind of smart to do. But he's also just a natural leader, and he's good at doing that. So I'm excited for him to officially have that role. And he leads our staff meetings. There'll be some other changes, but other than that, like it'll be basically the same, which is for me at least. So that's really cool. And anyway, I picked him up and we drove to Tyler and met with a bunch of other youth ministers. We talked about Netz's camp, which I'm excited about, and we talked about Netz's days. And I was thrilled to be able to host another Netz's Days, June 8th, at Pine Tree. So if you're in the area, you should swing by June 8th. Check us out. It'll be on our website. It'll be on our Instagram. It'll be on everything. But come for Netz's Days.
I'll be in the area.
You will be. Hey, do you want to be our speaker?
I think that would sound great.
Oh,
Got a theme yet? No. No, not yet.
Close. I hope we're close.
Man, it's crazy because you're looking at that and it's like, dude, that's the summer. Why are we talking about the summer already? And it's because March 1st is tomorrow.
Right, yeah.
That's unreal, man. I turn 46 tomorrow.
Woo.
46.
That's not
closer now. Well, no, but it's just closer to 50 than 40 now. So
that is true. Yeah, I think I'll be 35 this year.
I think.
I honestly don't remember.
Because at some point you quit counting, right?
I really do. Like, I just don't care. I just feel old. Like,
I just gotta do the math.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, we got a good little show on the slate, I think.
I think so.
Question we're asking is, are you willing to change your mind? This is kind of that question we ask.
I wasn't when we started the show, but at the end I am.
We have so many, like, I think about the conversations I have with people, and ultimately this is, I don't want to say ultimately, but one of the big questions it comes down to is in evangelism. And you think about, people have asked me, why is evangelism so hard? I said, well, think about it. I mean, you're asking someone to change their mind about their view on something that's really a crucial part of our existence. So,
right, yeah.
How willing are you to change your mind, and why is that important? That we come in with that mentality. You have any thoughts as we get going? I don't want to just talk over the top there.
No, these are my I'm an agreeable person when it comes to this. I think it's healthy for us to be open to helping change our minds on certain aspects. I also think there's a reality of perspective that we have to put ourselves in. I think a lot of people will hear this podcast and they'll want to go deep to like core doctrines or core beliefs and things like that, like in Jesus. And I don't know that that's where we're headed in today's show. I think it's just more the idea of like, how open are you to changing your mind on any topics? I grew up and, shorts were not a church option ever. Sunday night, Wednesday night shorts, no way. It could be 98 degrees outside, you're wearing pants. As I got older, man, shorts became an option in the evening, mainly because I was wearing them during the day and I didn't want to change to go to church, kind of a thing. It didn't make me a sinner. It didn't make me a non-believer. It didn't make me a heathen or anything like that. It was just, is that really something that like held to a core belief for me? Was wearing shorts to church, kind of an idea. And so I think when we take things into like a perspective or almost like a spiral, Christ and his church at the center, And as we put stuff on that spiral as we get out, like shorts would be way out here on that spiral for me, kind of an idea. And so I think sometimes we have to put things into perspective about, what are we able to be okay with for the sake of unity. You can't have unity if there's uniformity.
Mm-hmm.
We can't all look exactly the same. That's not unity. If you even I think you can take that argument even further and say, that's part of free will. Why doesn't God just make everybody believe and be uniform? That's not the beauty in his creation. The beauty in his creation is unity, not uniformity, coming through our differences and finding Christ at our core and at our center.
Yeah, I think you can take it to even like core principles.
Sure.
And just because my mind is open doesn't mean I have to change.
That's right.
But I think I have to come with a willingness that says, I am, hold on to your hat and your seat and everything. Okay. I'm not God.
What?
I am not divine. And so because I am made as a human, there is always a possibility that I have something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I come to the table, I have confidence in the gospel. I have confidence in the Spirit of God. I have confidence in what I've been taught. But if you can show me from the Word of God in an honest way where I'm wrong, even at my core, I'm willing to change my mind.
Sure.
But there's some ways that it's going to take a lot more persuasion than others. I can be swayed a little easier on other things because I don't hold them as dear.
Yeah.
Those core things are going to take
almost like it's in a spiral with Jesus at the center.
Right. That's right. But I think it's that willingness is what we ask other people to bring to the table. Like we want them to be willing to change their mind in order for us to create dialogue, which is what is required for anyone to make any kind of progress. I have to bring that same willingness to the table.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what it creates it doesn't mean that, that I want to change my mind even. But what it means is that I'm going to sit and I'm going to listen. And I'm not listening for a rebuttal. I'm listening to try to truly understand who you are, what you believe, why you believe it. And then we can talk about how it differs from where we are. It's a much longer process. It's a much more difficult process. It takes a lot more preparation and patience. But I think it's the best way forward. Only way forward,
well,
really.
I mean, it's obvious that in some form we have lost the ability to have conversations with people. Some people would root that with technology. Some people would root that with social media. Some people would root that just as far as generational changes that we've had in our lives growing up, that we have lost the ability to sit down and to have conversations and see things differently and walk away from each other, still loving each other, still being kind to each other, still respecting each other. And a lot of that is because of like this argumentative nature. I think originally you talked about reaching out to others, about evangelizing. In some of our minds, sometimes we believe that evangelism is winning the debate. If I can win them in the debate, I will win them to Jesus. And time after time has shown that that's not the case. That might work in 10% of the case. Like, oh, you beat me in a debate. You have mentally wrestled me to the ground. I shall devote myself to Christ. And it's like 9 times out of 10, like people are won to Christ by people's actions and the way that they live. We just took a Sunday night and we studied what love is. I started off asking all the teenagers, what's love? Like, how do you describe love? And they talked about a feeling. They talked about when you see someone pretty walk by. They talked about, but by the end of the night, they were like, love is actually an action. We see love played out in the form of how God loved Israel. How he constantly chased after them, how he constantly forgave them, how he constantly was blessing them. And now he does the same thing for us through Jesus's blood. And so I think in the same way, like part of our nature as Christians to be loving is an action, and part of being this openness in approaching these conversations where we're willing to at least listen is this idea of coming to the table not armed to the teeth, not armed, ready to quote or cite or,
And not being armed doesn't mean you're not prepared.
Not
it means
act
you're
like
coming with knowledge, not with weapons, right?
Don't treat it like a debate. Treat it like a conversation that you're having with a friend, and everything. And that's probably getting into something a little bit different for this topic, but like we have to be more open. I also feel like, honestly, if you're not open to changing your mind about some things or anything at all, and you're like, I've got it right the whole way, which, let's be honest, like in our tribe, in Churches of Christ, sometimes we can be a little bit like, oh, we already know it all because we've read our Bibles, like, are we really open to the Spirit moving? Are we really open to the Spirit who is calling us and listening to us? My favorite phrase is to be like, are we being pharisaical? Are we being like the Pharisees? Are we allowing the Sabbath day to be a burden instead of a blessing? I think that's my favorite, like, Jesus quote, right?
Yeah, right. And, so many times you come, we've talked about evangelism. You come to a passage of scripture that maybe you've read since you were a child, and you kind of just, all right, I know that story, and I'm moving on to the next one. Instead of coming to it with an openness that says, show me something I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Show me an emotion that's expressed in the subtle ways of the way that words are used. Our experiences allow us to process things in a different way. So as we go through life, I mean, think about, how did you read the prodigal son 4 years ago? And how do you read it today? Now you have a son. And so having a son changes everything about the way you read that story. You understood it before, but you understand it in a richer way. And as you read through that, you see different things that are highlighted. So much shapes if we're willing to be open to receiving those things. And it's about so many aspects of life. We have forgotten how to communicate with one another. We've either forgotten or we just decided we don't want to do the work to do it. And, you saw that with, Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter, and then Blue Lives Matter. Like, everyone was saying the same thing, but in saying it from their perspective, they were completely dismissing the perspective of other people.
Sure.
Because no one was accusing other people of well, I wouldn't say they weren't accusing. No one was actually saying anything that was incorrect or wrong. But because of the way that we proclaimed a message, we were dismissing other people's experiences. It's true with politics, Republican, Democrat, Independent.
Politics,
the worst. Everything. We're so polarized that we have pushed people to extremes, and we don't know how to meet in the middle to have that conversation because nobody comes ready to listen.
I believe, I will state this on the air, Aaron Partlow, I believe that there is nothing good that will ever come from politics. I believe that the only good in this world can come through Jesus' church. And that's why, like, I put no effort into politics at all, ever. Because I don't trust and I don't need the government to do good things. I need Jesus to do good things through me and to others, And so people are always like, "Whoa, you don't get into the politics," and I'm like, "No, why? I'm into the politics of Jesus and what he says and what he does, and I think only good that happens in this world is going to come through his church, not through El Presidente, whoever."
I do follow it because I think it's important to have some basis of conversation with people. And I do try to make myself at least moderately informed on what's going on. But as far as, you're not going to catch me in a heated debate because I'm not going to have an opinion one way or the other.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
Both sides are flawed. Both sides have things they do well. Both sides have things they do poorly. And
both sides seek for themselves and they never seek for God. Even if they are good Christian people who are politicians, I just feel like I don't need to waste my time.
Yeah, I had this little off topic, but not really. Someone, was talking about, prayer in schools. Like, man, this country started going downhill when we took prayer out of schools. I'm like, no, this country started going downhill when we took prayer out of the homes.
Yeah.
I don't need my kids to go to school to pray. I need my kids to go to school to learn how to read, write, and do math. I'll teach them to pray.
I'll teach them to pray.
But it's but coming together to have conversations, right?
Yes.
How do we hear one another? Back to that. How do we hear one another? What do you think it is?
How do we train ourselves to hear other people?
Well, where does it come from? Let's start there, maybe, as to figure out how to train us. Why do we not want to? Why are we afraid to come to the table with an open mind and an open heart, ready to receive what someone else has to say?
Well, I think sometimes we really know that we don't know everything, and we're afraid of not knowing something, right? So we're afraid if somebody can convince us that we're wrong. I also think we're so used to living in an echo chamber. We love to surround ourselves in a place where our ideas, even when we throw them at a wall, they'll come back to us exactly the same. I can relate to that in ministry. Sometimes in ministry, you really want an echo chamber. It's like, I have this idea. And somebody's like, that's awesome. Let's do it.
That's what I wanted.
Sometimes you don't want is somebody to be like, oh, that's cool, but I don't think it'll work at all. And you're like, oh, why are you so negative, you pessimist? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, I probably should have listened to them, and it didn't work out super well, and yada, 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 kind of stuff like that. So I think those are two reasons that I can think of. Like, sometimes we're afraid. We're afraid of being wrong. We're afraid of basing our lives, or not even basing our lives, even on something small. Why is it so hard to convince your child to try a vegetable?
Because it's gross.
Because it's gross. I hate it. Okay. Example. My son is 4 years old. From the age of 2 to 4, pickles were the world's worst. We go to McDonald's. You order him a kid's meal cheeseburger. You go, without pickles. His Mimi and Papa, oh, Sam doesn't like pickles. He doesn't like pickles. He doesn't like pickles. Man, we're eating a meal over here. I have those like mini sweet dills. Yeah. And I say, oh, it's just a green carrot. Oh, that's good, Dad. Can I get some more green carrots?
Right.
Sure, buddy. A day later, I go, hey, those green carrots you were eating, those are pickles. He's like, oh, what? And I was like, yeah. I mean, not all pickles are bad. All pickles are different. And, and I told him, I said, the things in your mouth that tell you if things are good or bad, well, they change over time. I said, so it's always good to have an open mind when we are eating foods. I said, something that we do in the Partlow house. He's really into like creeds or mottos. I told him, I said, hey, Partlow's never give up. And so whenever we're doing something and we're failing, he's like, Dad, just remember Partlow's never give up.
Never give up.
And I'm like, that's right, buddy. So I was like, so Partlow's we will always try something once. I said, that's the way it is. Like, we will always try something once. If somebody serves us or gives us food, we'll try it once. And that allows us to know if we like it or not.
Josh said he tells you that's something we don't try once.
well, I'm talking about food. Food.
I know. Yeah. It's that will backfire on you if you use it improperly, right? One time my kids wouldn't eat mashed potatoes, so I gave them a bowl of ice cream. That was not ice cream. It was mashed potatoes. And to this day, Dustin probably does, but Jody and Dylan, they won't even touch mashed potatoes because that is etched in their mind when Dad handed me a bowl of ice cream that was not ice cream. It didn't affect the way they view ice cream, though. So
very different flavors, very different cold and hot.
But in the bowl, it was like a perfect scoop. It was right there. It was it's funny, man. Just sometimes the way things are kind of brought to you. Like, so you didn't like pickles once. Mm-hmm. And now it's not only is it in my mind, but then it's reinforced because, everyone else around is like, oh, don't even try. He said he didn't like pickles once, so don't even give him pickles. He doesn't like pickles. And so just that those words coming back is just kind of concreting that, and
we'll make it a core foundation of who they are.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll say this, sometimes it's about me and Star Wars. Like, there was a time in my life where I really liked Star Wars. If you go to my office and you look around my office, it is full of Star Wars stuff.
How much of it have you bought?
90% of it is stuff that people have just given me over time because they heard that I liked Star Wars.
Be careful what you say.
I like cool, like vintage collectible stuff. So I think if somebody came in and said, you can only keep one thing of your Star Wars collection, what would you keep? I'd say, okay, the glasses. The old Burger King Star Wars glasses. Out of all of my Star Wars stuff, besides the paintings that my grandma made me, would be the only things that I keep. You know, I like Star Wars. Don't get me wrong, I like Star Wars. I used to know a lot more Star Wars facts, but
yeah,
it's funny, I didn't bring it to the island.
No, right. That's right. It's funny what we latch onto, though. You know, as people, and those messages that kind of get put back into us. And I think sometimes we rely, we kind of just rely on what's been given to us. And because we've never actually done, and I'm going to go back to like our faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, that's the most important aspect of this openness that we come to.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't ever do the work of making my faith my own,
mm-hmm.
then there's always this uncertainty of what if I could be persuaded away from Jesus? What would I do?
That's funny.
And it is so important for us
mm-hmm.
to understand. Like I love when Paul, I think it's the Galatians, when he writes the letter to Galatians and he says, somebody has led you away from the gospel that I preached you. He goes, and I think we take this next passage that he says, he goes, even if an angel from heaven are to come and give you a gospel different than the one you've received, you don't accept it.
Mm.
But what Paul is trying to get them to understand is not the nature of engaging new ideas. It's of the kind of confidence you should be able to have in the message that God has given us in the gospel of Jesus. That I don't need to defend the gospel. The gospel can defend itself. Jesus doesn't need me to stand up and go to battle for him. He wants me to go to battle with him, but he's more than capable of standing on his own and taking the barrage from people that are around. So you just need to stand in the confidence of who I am. And I think it's that fear of, man, am I going to be able to hold my own? Like, you don't have to. Just put the message before the people and let the Spirit go to work. But in the meantime, the way I am able to do that is by sitting and really listening and hearing what it is that people are saying. Because I don't need to be afraid if I've done the work of making sure that the Word of God and the Spirit of God is buried deep within me, and trusting that He'll guide us through those conversations. You know.
Yeah.
The other aspect is I think we're just driven by negativity. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to hit on that point, I do think like a weakness in your faith, like a chink in that armor that is so easy for Satan to exploit, is if we're not open to changing our minds, if we're not open to the Spirit leading us in different ways or something like that, that is a, we talked about it Sunday as well in our sermon series. We're talking about Thomas. We're talking about, the unfortunate name of Thomas the Doubter is the nickname we gave him. Thomas the Twin is the nickname Jesus gave him. But, but like, if we're not open, if we're not able to have conversations and work through and constructively, rationally talk about our faith, that leaves a big gap for doubt. And instead of doing what we're supposed to do with doubt, which is wrestle with it, handle it, use it, all that kind of stuff, we end up bottling it up. We end up saving it. We end up doing something, or ignoring it. And it's a problem that just keeps building up and building up and building up to eventually somebody comes along and opens it up. And you're like, well, my entire faith has fallen through because of this one little thing, this one little doubt, because we never taught ourselves. We never trained ourselves to handle doubt. We never trained ourselves to have conversations openly about our faith. We've never trained ourselves. We say it all the time, and we tell teenagers this all the time in youth ministry. It's okay if you don't have all the answers. It's okay to tell somebody who's asking you really hard questions to say, I don't know. I don't know. And at the end of the day, there's some things that I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I heard this guy quote himself one time, and he said, "I'm not God." you know, and
Yeah.
it's true. It's true. But you can see how, like, if you've never opened yourself up, if you've never allowed yourself to have rational, good conversations, if you've never read a story in the Bible and been like, God, teach me and show me something new here, and not just go, oh, well, I know the story of Samson. Let me tell you all the details, and let me tell you the only lesson that you can get from Samson. I know what this parable of Jesus means. Let me tell you the only reason or the only meaning from this parable. Well, that's why Jesus taught in parables, because there's a main reason, but there's a lot of sub meanings in there too, for us to pull from and for us to learn from. But it becomes an inherent, and it becomes a deep weakness in our faith. And I think that's where sometimes we have a lot of people who fall away from the church or from God or from their faith, mainly from the mere fact that they have never vocalized any of these doubts or anything like this. Like they keep it bottled up and try to ignore it.
Yeah, and I don't know that I was not explicitly taught that questioning your faith is a sign of weakness.
Right.
But it was kind of this understanding that, like, this is who we are, and this is the truth, and we just simply don't question it. And
Right,
so
yeah.
when things come up that make you question it, you're like, what's wrong with me if I'm questioning these things that are, I mean, they're really we kind of led to believe they're unquestionable.
Yeah.
And because, like you mentioned, doubting Thomas, like, yeah, but dude, like, aren't you glad he said, show me the wounds? Everybody in the room is looking and going, okay, I know this looks and sounds like Jesus, and he says he's Jesus, but we put this dude in a tomb, and people you put in the tomb don't come walking out.
Well, he also wasn't there. Like, Jesus appeared himself to the apostles, but Thomas wasn't there.
Right.
And so he walks into the room where everybody's like, guess who we saw? And he's like,
and if you think about a guy that's got a twin, he's going, yeah, been here before. In fact, in my school, me and my brother pulled over on our teacher several times, and they confused us. So, I want the proof. And for him to have the boldness to go to Jesus and say, show me.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really Jesus, show me your hands, show me your wounds. And the best part of that story is that Jesus doesn't rebuke him for that.
Right.
He says,
it's the first thing that Jesus says when he comes in.
Yeah.
Too.
He goes, blessed are you because you've seen and you believe. But there's also acknowledgement of an even greater blessing for those who aren't able to see and yet will still believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of John the Baptist. He's about to be beheaded, and there's this moment of, okay, really, Jesus, are you really the one, or have I done all this for nothing? And Jesus says, you make sure John the Baptist knows. The blind see, the lame walk, the dead are raised to life, and the poor are preached the gospel. And no, you're good, man. Like, go, be confident. This is what's there, and there's not this rebuke for this doubt that's there. I think one of the things we have to do if we're going to train ourselves to be able to have these conversations is number one, we got to stop being afraid. We have to learn to lean into doubt and learn how to wrestle with it and grow from it, and not see it as as a sign of a chink in our armor or weakness.
Right.
But the other thing is we have to get away from this like spirit of negativity that we have just grown to make so normal.
Right. Yeah.
That somehow if you disagree with me, you're my enemy.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not just on the big things.
No.
Right. I mean, we go down to the littlest things like the Rihanna halftime show.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like it, but why do you have to bash a performer for putting on something you don't like? All you gotta do is change the channel.
Mm-hmm. Or turn it off.
Or turn it off. Or when someone says, dude, that was the best halftime show ever, you can not be a part of that conversation.
Yeah.
Or you could say, man, I'm really glad you liked it. It wasn't something I enjoyed, but I'm glad you did, and move on, but somehow it turns into this, oh, if you liked that, you're disgusting. That is horrible. You're awful. You have no taste, And I think that's the polarizing nature of negativity that we've got to, that we just can't accept.
And we have it everywhere. It's not just halftime
Absolutely.
show. It's even like sodas. It comes down to our very nature of, you go to
Coke
that.
Zero? You drink Coke Zero? Oh, that's
Pepsi all the way, man. Coke's for the
pagans.
But,
only pagans drink.
And then you have people, and then we're taught at a young age, like, oh, you go to that high school, they're full of idiots, and I'm like, whoa, chill out. Like, what are you saying? Like, you get what you're saying?
I think it struck me like early on, and my brother was young. Dustin, we were big Texas Longhorn fans, and there were two guys, Colt McCoy and Jordan Shipley, that played for Texas. And they both went to Westover Hills Church of Christ in Austin. Mm-hmm. And if they were in town, they were at church on Sunday, every Sunday. They would come in a little late, sit on the back row, and leave early. They didn't want to raise, they would just kind of slink in and slink out because they didn't want it to be about them being there. But they were always at church. They were Christian young men and good guys. And Dustin he loved Colt McCoy. If they put an article out about Colt McCoy, if they had a picture, he had it. He had his jersey. And we're sitting there like at Thanksgiving one time, and my little brother goes, Colt and Jordan are on steroids. And I was arguing with him, and he kept arguing back. I'm like, no. And my dad finally was like, guys, knock it off. I'm like, Dad, like, I can't. Like, there are very few people in sports that I want my son to look up to. And here are two guys that are doing the right thing, living the right way. And I'm not going to allow my brother to change that perspective of them and take that away from him.
Why?
And he's like, he's not even in here. Dustin's in the other room. I'm like, you don't know what that child hears. Like, he has said things that I thought he was outside of earshot, and then they've come back and bit me in the rear. They hear things, they soak them up, and you're not going to take that away from him just because you have an opinion. And that was kind of in that moment that I realized how much our words can have the power to either destroy or build up. And it's just because they had a difference of opinion. And a lot of it is completely opinion.
Right.
And so getting out and just refusing to be negative, acknowledging that in the midst of our differences, hey, I don't like World of Warcraft.
Neither do I.
I've
changed my mind.
Yeah.
That's the one. I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft. You're right.
What did we watch at the International?
We watched.
That was Dota, right?
We watched some Dota too.
Dota. We're sitting there and you're like, dude, this is awesome. I'm like, no, this is stupid. Why would you watch someone else play video games? But you know what I did? We sat in the student center and we watched it. And you know what? I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because we got to spend some time together. I got to learn about some things that you were enjoying at the time. Yeah. It also helped me understand some things that my youngest son would enjoy as he grew up. And it kind of opened a mindset to embracing some of the things that he kind of gets some life out of. But I would have been starting from ground zero with him.
Right.
If I hadn't have been willing to embrace something new and different than I had ever even thought about.
Yeah.
When you and I met. And so I can either like bash you because what do you mean? You live in Texas and you don't like football? Like,
that's right.
On,
yeah.
Dude. Like, or I can say,
don't live and breathe football.
Yeah, right. But the truth is, you may not enjoy it and you might not choose it. But if someone invites you, you're probably going to go along.
I'm there.
If one of your kids is playing, you're going to go watch them play and you're going to support them because you know it's important to them and it's important to their lives. Mm-hmm. And that's how we grow as people, by embracing things that are different than we are, by refusing to live in that echo chamber and being a people that just exude something positive.
There's something about being all things to all people, that there's a flexibility that comes with that.
Yeah.
That's totally true.
Have you seen the stuff where they go through and they kind of enlighten some of the phrases that we use, like jack of all trades, master of none?
Oh yeah, it's actually like a yeah.
We've used it as kind of an insult, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, he can do a little bit of everything, but he can't do anything well. But the actual phrase is jack of all trades, master of none is always better than a master of one.
Yeah.
And so we've taken something that was meant to be positive about someone that's experienced in all things in a little bit, and we've made it into a negative where it just says, yeah, but you can't do anything right.
Yeah.
But there's something to being able to be a part of everyone's life in some way. But we got to be open to do that.
I would love to be a jack of all trades. Like, to be honest, like just to know just enough about everything that I can get through everything. I'm not a jack of all trades, nor am I a master of one. I am a master of none.
Right.
Like,
jack of a few trades, master of none. That's okay too.
38 card deck, man. Use me for nothing.
Hey,
we want to thank you all for being here today. We appreciate you. We appreciate Josh for being here too. We want to remind you of Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Especially when we think about being open and changing our minds and just really just having a different nature, a different flow about us. We think of Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Don't grow weary in doing good. Like, we're doing good and do good for Jesus. Allow Christ to use you to do something different, something good in his name. We thank you for being here. We thank you for listening to Behind the Beards. We ask you to subscribe or like or comment or anything like that.
Rate, review.
Rate, review. That's it. Yeah. That always helps so much. But anyway, I'm Aaron. That's Josh. And we'll see you sometime in the future on Behind the Beards.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Man, I'm ready for my life to have a little structure again. You don't realize how much you need like a schedule until it is completely out the window.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, man.